one likes getting locked out of content in a game. Sadly, it's something many players have to get used to, as anything from narrative decisions to leaving an area can impact the world in a way that will inevitably leave certain content inaccessible. You might not even notice it happening, but you'll no doubt feel it sting. The following 10 games push this to the max, as they all came with excellent content that a bunch of players locked themselves out of, whether intentionally or not. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 video games that lock you out of the best content. Number 10. Stormcloaks or Imperials, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. One of the earliest choices you'll be making in Bethesda's monumental fantasy RPG is deciding who to escape with during the dragon attack in Helgen. Do you go with your fellow prisoner, the proud Stormcloak Ralof, or do you follow one of the guards who had you on the chopping block, the Imperial Hadvar? This simple decision quickly establishes two major paths that you can walk in the game: join the Stormcloaks or the Imperials. Unfortunately, you'll miss out on some of the game's best content no matter which team you decide to play for. Siding with the hearty yet xenophobic Stormcloaks will naturally result in you missing out on becoming a member of the Imperial Legion. But in equal measure, you'll never know the feeling of being a Stormcloak revolutionist if you come under the Empire. If you want to play both sides, you can, but only until a certain point. Once you've given away the jagged crown, you'll be locked into one and locked out of the other. As such, you better choose wisely. Personally, I'm an Imperial girl. Number 9. The Big Prank, Bully. Rockstar's controversial school-based action game Bully is brimming with fun activities for mischief lovers out there to sink their teeth into. Whether you're warring with social groups, attending classes, or exploring the school, there's no shortage of hijinks to get up to in Bulworth Academy. However, while most of the game's optional content is accessible whenever you want it, there's an epic mission which you only get one shot at. The Big Prank is a hilarious and disgusting side quest that happens directly after Halloween night. In it, Jimmy and Gary do exactly what it says on the tin, pulling a big prank where they feed rancid meat to a dog, grab its poop, put it in a flaming bag, and set off the fire alarm, causing one of the teachers to stamp on it. This incredibly mature act is the game's only missable mission. If Jimmy goes to bed on Halloween night, he won't get the chance to partake in the prank, locking the player out of this messy yet definitely fun adventure. Number 8. The true pacifist route, Undertale. Killing your way through a world of monsters is second nature to most video game players. That's part of what makes Undertale so special, as it gives you the option to keep your hands clean and find unique ways to spare all your enemies. No blood baths are needed here unless you want them. On top of sparing your conscience, performing a pacifist run in this beloved indie title also rewards you with some of Undertale's best content. You'll get additional interactions with the lovable characters, an epic final boss battle, and the game's best ending. Of course, you've only got to slip up once for all that extra content to evaporate into thin air. Taking the life of even a single monster will, unsurprisingly, lock you out of the true pacifist route. While you can always increase your kill count, you can never decrease it. As such, you can kiss all those narrative moments and the mind-blowing Astral ending goodbye if you whack any critters, no matter how aggressive or annoying they may be. Number 7. Collecting all the Chin Pokemon, South Park: The Stick of Truth. Collectathon missions are like the proverbial Marmite. You either love them or hate them. In Australia, it's Vegemite, and I hate it. But one thing that can impact how you react to the humble collectathon is how creative they are. For example, while finding each identical feather in Assassin's Creed 2 can be a drag, finding every unique Chin Pokemon in South Park: The Stick of Truth is one of the game's highlights. Uncovering each of these Pokemon parody mascots throughout South Park is a delightful experience, but sadly, your dream of catching them all might not come true, as it's very easy to lock yourself out of getting every single one. The game takes you to many areas around the town, with unique collectibles including the Chin Pokemon found in each. However, many of these places are not re-accessible, so if you fail to discover all the little beasties while you're there, you'll get locked out of catching them all. Places like the Giggling Donkey, the military base, the UFO, and more are destroyed or cut off after completion. As such, your hunt for the Chin Pokemon can become completely derailed if you're not as eagle-eyed as possible. Number 6. Westcliff Development, Fable 2. The quirky action RPG Fable 2 is brimming with fun recurring characters, with one of the best being the ever-ambitious entrepreneur Barnum. You meet this NPC throughout the game as he tries his best to get rich quickly. While most of his attempts are fruitless, there's one that pays off handsomely if you help him out. The problem is, you'll lose the chance forever if you miss the window. Westcliff is one of the gnarliest areas in Fable 2, as it's a crime-riddled region populated by vagabonds, cutthroats, and criminals. Barnum, however, sets his sights on improving the place, asking you to donate a whopping 5,000 gold with the promise of turning Westcliff around. Despite the character's previous failures, the best option here is to hand that gold over. After returning from the time skip at the Spire, you'll be met with an entirely new Westcliff and a tasty 15,000 gold injection from Barnum. Naturally though, if you didn't put your faith in Barnum's Westcliff development program, you'll get nothing, and Westcliff remains the horrid place it always had been. Number 5. Skipping the final boss, Starfield. Starfield is a divisive title, mostly thanks to how worn out Bethesda's RPG game design has gotten. Still, while a lot of the game is flat and lifeless, there's plenty to love in this space epic, including the spectacular final boss. That's why it's so amusing that you can completely bypass it with a few choice words. During the game's final moments, you'll face off against either the Hunter, the Emissary, or both, depending on your choice at the end of the Unearthed mission. This bombastic encounter combines firepower with multi-dimensional travel as you teleport between areas you visited throughout the game while battling your foe. It's thematic, action-packed, and captures the essence of your whole adventure. But you can skip it outright by persuading your foes to call it quits before the fighting begins. While this method is certainly effective for reaching the end credits, it locks you out of arguably Starfield's best sequence. Just because you can't avoid the encounter doesn't necessarily mean you should. Number 4. Burning the Erd Tree, Elden Ring. Any FromSoft fan will tell you that the Soulsborne series is more than happy to let you miss big chunks of content, and Elden Ring sure is no exception. There's a ton of stuff you can get locked out of in this massive open world game. For example, if you randomly feel like killing any NPCs, you'll also be killing their unique quest lines alongside them. However, the biggest lock-off comes after you defeat Malekith, burn the Erd Tree, and turn Leyndell into the Ashen Capital. This massive story moment changes the world in a way that cuts you out of a hell of a lot of side content you might have missed. For example, the Fear quest line will be moot if you've not already gotten through it. Plus, some seedbed curses will disappear after the burning, which impacts the Dung Eater quest. Those are just a few examples, but there are plenty more. Who would have expected that burning the giant Erd Tree the world revolves around would have such dire consequences? Number 3. Reaching the Night Song early, Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 has more freedom than a Grand Wizard has spells, but one catch that freedom brings is you can accidentally lock yourself out of some banging content. One particularly debilitating example of this comes in Act 2's Shadow-Cursed Lands. When exploring this hostile area, you'll stumble across a grand mausoleum that the devilish Raphael will convince you to enter. Tunnel vision players might feel like jumping in right away, but doing so before exploring Moonrise Towers will cost you massively. This mausoleum leads you to the Gauntlet of Shar, a significant milestone in Shadowheart's personal questline and the location of the Night Song, an NPC who plays a major role in Act 2's narrative. Sadly, if you complete this area early and free Night Song, real name Dame Aelin, you can kiss goodbye to a boatload of unfinished quests, as the assault on Moonrise Towers will begin immediately. Did you want to free the tieflings and the gnomes? Well, now you can't. Did you want to re-explore previous areas? Tough luck! Did you fail to encounter the Thorm family? Too bad! That's just scratching the surface too. On top of that, you'll also be dangerously underleveled for the grueling battles ahead of you. Overall, it's really not in your best interest to get this quest done early. Sorry, Dame Aelin, you'll just have to wait. Number 2. Roach or Yorvith, The Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings. This list has already explored how binary choices in video games can affect the experience, but while choosing to join the Stormcloaks or Imperials in Skyrim does impact a side quest, this choice in The Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings dramatically influences the story itself. The game follows Geralt of Rivia as he gets sucked into a conspiracy full of magic, regicide, politics, and sorceresses. So pretty much an average Tuesday for the White Wolf. At the end of Chapter 1, you're forced to choose between assisting the head of the Temerian royal forces, Vernon Roach, or the rebellious elf leader, Yorvith. Naturally, these are some pretty opposing choices, and they change the entire path of the story, altering the game in a myriad of different ways. For example, siding with Yorvith explores Saskia the Dragonslayer more, while standing with Roach doesn't, and that's just one example of many. Ultimately, the game lives up to the 2 in its name, as you'll need to play it at least twice if you want to experience everything. Number 1. Losing Pan Am and the best ending, Cyberpunk 2077. Anything can happen in Night City, but at the same time, many things might not happen, as getting locked out of the content is par for the course in this game and the DLC Phantom Liberty. But for the case of this entry, we're just talking about the vanilla ending. Some examples of missed content include missable weapons in the one-visit-only locations, the Judy romance if you choose a male body type, the hidden Don't Fear the Reaper ending, and plenty more. Still, that's just a small fry when you consider that you can rob V of arguably the best romance and ending in the game. Players who ventured down the Pan Am romance within the Undertale story were met with some of Cyberpunk's best content. Pan Am is great, the nomads are fun, and the ending it grants is the most hopeful and happy that the game is willing to offer you. However, you can lose all that for many reasons, like taking too long to finish the Riders of the Storm side job, siding with Saul later in the game, or opting for a female body type, which locks you out of romancing Pan Am. Something I found out the very harsh rejecty way. Everyone who's gone down this road will tell you it is a highlight of the game, so it's a shame many players won't see it.